What's going on, YouTube? Let's get ready to rock and roll.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday, July 27th, 2015, and we want to thank you. We want to thank you for joining us this morning. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to spend some time with us, whether you're listening via YouTube or via the radio show. However you're listening, download it, the podcast, whatever. However, doesn't matter. We're glad you're here, and we're glad to be just doing what we do, right? Yeah, we crossed over, man. I put out a call. I want to thank you guys. I want to give you guys a really big hand. We put out a call to help us get over 2,000 subscribers. And not only did we get over 2,000 subscribers in like a day, we're at like 2,200 or close to 2,200, somewhere really close to 2,200. And so it's slowly but surely growing on YouTube and the followers that we have on Twitter and Spreaker, so all over the place. Thank you. That's what I want to say is thank you. We have some things. Apparently, we have some things that are valuable, right? Some presentations, some messages, or whatever the case may be. But anyway, it's Monday, and I'm slow starting because I don't know, man. Mondays are just Mondays, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. As much as I love doing the show, it's still Monday. It's still Monday morning, and it's not even or it's just after 8 o'clock. So I want to talk about Hillary Clinton. There's a lot of things that I could not get to last week just because we have some a lot more callers than I normally schedule time for. So if people keep calling in, and which we want you to, 857-600-0518, we want you to call in, but I may need to add a little more time on the clock so that I can actually get to all of my points. I meant to talk about Donald Trump extensively last week, and that just that went out the window. I didn't really get enough time to do that. And we dealt with Sandra Bland a bit. They just laid her to rest over the weekend. And, it's just a really frustrating situation in general with regard to the police treatment of people of color, police treatment of everybody. The police they're hyper militarized. They're too aggressive. They are, it's blue versus everyone else. And that becomes extremely frustrating when you see the results of it. No matter how Sandra Bland died, it's at the hands of the responsibility. The blood falls on the hands of that officer who was a small person with a big ego who couldn't handle someone who was frustrated. If you can't handle someone who is irritated, then you don't need to be in the police any form. I think it was a state trooper. You don't need to be in any form of policing whatsoever. So we got a chance to deal with that a little bit last week, and I have articles written on that exact subject. So if you want more insight in terms of how I see it, I really see it as people who create confrontations. They create a mess, and then they arrest you for the mess. And then they kill you for the confrontation that they created. So that's just something that really, really gets under my skin. But last week we dealt with it a little bit, and I didn't get a chance to deal with Donald Trump. But Donald Trump is Donald Trump, and if he stays in this race, then there'll be plenty of time. He's going to say something else ignorant. He's going to say something else offensive. He's going to give us plenty of time. As long as he stays in this race, he's going to give us plenty of time to give commentary on what the Republican Party has become and why it is that they are enamored, they are in love with Donald Trump. At least about 20% of them are. So he's going to give us plenty of opportunity. But this morning, I was yesterday doing a lot of reading and came across Hillary Clinton's one proposal by Hillary Clinton that is an economic proposal. It is it's just one piece. It's not her entire economic plan. A matter of fact, they don't even know how effective this plan is. But I came across it, and as I was reading it, I saw questions were just going off in my mind as to how effective this is actually going to be in terms of addressing the systemic inequality that is present in the American capitalistic system. And as I read, I'm like, one of her goals, if I can just give you a snapshot of that, because I want you to go read it for yourself. It's all over the place, but the particular version I want you to read is over at the Wall Street Journal. Read it on the Wall Street Journal. And then once you're done reading, I want you to read the comments. Now, a lot of people avoid comments, but I want you to read the comments because I want to demonstrate something to you. So Hillary Clinton's new tax plan is aimed at encouraging are incentivizing long-term investments. Her tax plan is not on income tax. What she's proposed, her proposal over the weekend or last week is not a proposal on income tax, but it's on capital gains tax. Capital gains taxes are basically what you get off of investments. If you're invested in a company and you make a profit off of that, that's the tax that you would pay. You would pay a tax on that. So it's not a tax on your labor. It's a tax on your capital gains taxes. So she proposed an increase on capital gains taxes for people who engage in short-term investment. Right now, and she actually proposed doubling it. So I want you to watch this. Not only is her plan not based on labor, her plan is based on capital, right? Which weeds out a whole lot of people. But then it's also targeting people who make over approximately $400,000 a year, which weeds out more than half of America. I'd say that would weed out probably 90% of America does not make over $400,000 a year. Okay, now it gets better. Her plan is to double the tax rate from around 20% to around 40%, give or take a percentage point. Her plan is to raise it only on people who plan on cashing out their investment before 2 years. If you keep your investment for longer than 2 years, then the rate steps down and goes back to 20%. So if you keep your investment for a total of 6 years, it goes down back to the original 20%. Okay, now you can look at it yourself. You can get all into the minutia of it, but that's pretty much a general snapshot of her policy. It really targets a very small subset of America. First of all, you have to have investments. And I know a lot of people have retirements and they're saying, well, it's going to affect my retirement. Well, no, it's only going to affect your retirement if your annual income is greater than $400,000 a year. Right. So that weeds out the majority of Americans, and it really only targets a very small percentage of Americans. And it only targets you if you cash out your investments faster than 2 years. If you keep your investment for 6 years, then it goes back down to 20%, and effectively nothing changes. Okay. Now, as I was reading it, I read and I'm like, what good is this actually going to, what is this going to accomplish, Hillary Clinton? And I kept reading, and I see that her goal is to begin to change the mindset of companies who are focused on quarterly returns, companies who are pressured to get a bottom line, to get a performance on a quarter by quarter basis. And her hope is to encourage long-term investments into their company, into their people, into new innovations, different things like that. It sounds good, but at the end of the day, it really does not accomplish anything with regards to the systemic inequalities that we see in America, systemic economic inequalities. And so, and this is how I know this for sure, right? So on the left, there are people who are criticizing and saying, this is not going to do anything, Hillary. If this is the best that you have, Hillary, then, you are no Elizabeth Warren, right? And rightfully so. I think that's a fair critique. But people on the right are screaming as if this was an economic holocaust. And that's why I want you to go to read the Wall Street Journal version, and I want you to read the comments section. I'm gonna circle back to that. But then there's only one group of people who are applauding this, who said that this is practical, this is reasonable, and this is a good move. And that's think tanks, that's organizations who are focused on doing things down the center. People who are focused on finding the third way, not left, not right, but center, that type of group. And so her proposal is pretty much a centrist proposal. It is beyond moderate. It's nothing too aggressive. She has some people on Wall Street who support it. She has some people on Main Street who support it. But the funny thing about it is that when you read the comments and you read the reaction from people on the right, and you read the reaction from some people on Wall Street and some people who just have this mindset of any type of taxation is socialism, you would swear that this centrist policy from Hillary Clinton is the newest wave of socialism. You would swear that this moderate plan that really isn't going to do much of anything in the long run, you would believe that this was the second coming of Mao or Stalin, because that's how they're reacting. And when I read these reactions, it reminded me, I mean, really, I want you to go read. I was going to read them on the air, but I want you to do your own homework and go make up your own mind. Go read it for yourself, and you will see that people are reacting to this. Some people are reacting to this as though she is bringing in the Gestapo and just plundering all of the private ownership in America. And all she has offered is something that is pretty blandly down the middle. It's not going to do anything to fix the dwindling middle class. It's not going to do anything to fix the stagnant wages that we see for people who are at the bottom, 90% of America. It's not going to do anything of that sort. And so what I realize is we are dealing with people who are absolutists. We're dealing with people on the right who believe that they should have no responsibility to the government beyond what they're already doing, and what they're already doing is enough, and that should be reduced. We're dealing with a bunch of people who feel like any adjustment whatsoever to the tax code is socialism. And that type of absolutism makes people like Hillary Clinton fearful, because she doesn't want to rock the boat too much. That's why she came out with this bland policy in the first place. She wants to be a moderate. She wants to be considered a centrist, because to get elected in America, you have to be a centrist. You can't be too far to the left and you can't be too far to the right. Here's the problem with it. When you have people who are controlling the conversation and swearing before God that this is the absolute worst form of socialism, this really simple tax plan that she has that's not going to change anything, you have them screaming to the hills that this is socialism, that this is the worst thing in the world, that this is the dumbest policy, this is crony capitalism, all these pejoratives that they have that absolutely make no sense, right, with regard to what those things actually are. All of these pejoratives are a scare tactic to push the conversation, the national narrative, further and further and further to the right, so that what Hillary Clinton brings out and she thinks is moderate and she thinks is centrist is now considered to be extreme left. And what that does to the national conversation, it pushes us further and further and further to the right, so that now we're not talking about just conservative versus liberal. We're talking about extreme right fascist conservatism versus just right of center. Hillary Clinton's proposal is just right of center. Most of Bill Clinton's proposals, for the most part, a lot of them, and a lot of Barack Obama's economic policies, with some exceptions. I will give Barack some exceptions with letting the Bush tax cuts expire, things like that. But we really have not had a fair comparison between what is left and what is right. We have not had a real conversation about what is pure laissez-faire capitalism, unfettered capitalism, and what is responsible capitalism, what is something that is going to help benefit the middle class. We haven't had that conversation since 1975, 1981, that era. That's the last time we had that conversation. And the last word on that conversation was, let's just turn the ship all the way to the right and just go as far right as possible, such that now when a centrist, moderate candidate like Hillary Clinton, who may as well, in a lot of regards, with the exception of social issues, Hillary Clinton may as well be Mitt Romney with regard to economic issues, because it's just plain bland down the center. We have gone so far to the right in this country that her moderate views are now considered extremist. And when you have a situation like that, we are always in a race trying to win. Here's the bottom line. So long as we let people like that control the national conversation, so long as we let people on the right who are vilifying anything, any responsibility, they want to abdicate every bit of responsibility that they have to the common welfare here in the United States, to their own, to the infrastructure of the United States, to the United States in general. All they want to do is to take. They call us takers. That's the thing about it. They call people on the left moochers and takers. But all they want to do is take, and not give anything back to the United States government, not give anything back to the common welfare, not give anything back to the infrastructure. They just want to rob America blind of its resources, of its labor, of its human capital. They want to rob America blind. And the way they've done it is the way they're going to continue to try to do it. And that is to push the national conversation further and further and further to the right, where now we look at a person like Hillary Clinton, and she's just what she proposed with this little increase, this 20% increase, or doubling, 100% increase on a tax rate for capital gains for people who make over $400,000 a year. All of a sudden, something like that, which is pretty bland, is considered socialism. It's considered to be radicalized. Now, God forbid we start talking about real progressive tax codes, and we start talking about the things that Bernie Sanders talks about and Elizabeth Warren talks about. God forbid we start talking about that. We can't even talk about moderate things anymore. There is no left in America anymore. Not in actual Washington politics. There is no left. Everything is neoliberalism, far right. And don't mistake the word liberalism, neoliberalism, with American politics liberalism. Neoliberalism is an international term. All right, folks, I'm going to take a quick break. After this break, when I come back, I want to deal with these idiots, these people who swear up and down that America, that we're living in a socialist regime. People who don't even understand the meaning of the word socialism. It drives me crazy, because that's what they keep throwing over here at Hillary's moderate policies, that she's a socialist. And now that, I'm unpacking, I'm unloading everything today. Join the conversation, 857-600-0518. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back right after this.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig Center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. Warm place on a cold day.
I want to be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
Welcome back. All right. So here's what the plan is. The plan has been for the last 30 years. I mean, actually, this has been going on since the founding of the nation. You saw a lot of it in the during the New Deal with FDR, and then you saw it afterwards with the Red Scare. But we have had a professional, institutionalized propaganda machine for the last 35 years who has operated on this one message and this one message alone. Give us tax breaks, and anything other than tax breaks is socialism, is communism. Now they throw in Maoism and Leninism and Stalinism, right? That has been the systemic plan, and they have scared. They have propagandized their own people, their own poor voters who don't benefit from the tax breaks that they have gotten, that they've passed, right? They've propagandized their people to believe this as a religion. They believe this. Just cut taxes and everything else will take care of itself, right? But that's not the worst part. The worst part is they have scared progressives, they've scared liberals into being afraid of being called a socialist. When you think about it, two very important things, and I don't want to forget either one of them. So let me just say them up top, and then if I forget them, you can somebody tweet me and say I forgot one. And I'm talking, I already forgot. No, two important things. America, well, actually, let me start here. Socialism is not an on-off switch. It's not dichotomous. It's not you're either socialist or you're not. Socialism is a spectrum. That being said, America has always, since the very beginning of our nation, engaged in some type of socialist activities. Now you say socialist, oh, you think of the National Socialist Party, you think Nazis, you think Russia, you think all these kind of things, you think China. Also think America. The pure definition of socialism is extracting resources for the government to implement whatever, to do whatever it is going to do, whatever, or just to redistribute it to somewhere else. Since day one, America has engaged in some type of socialism. Since actually before day one, with the founding of the first post office in 1775. So even before 1776, we have been engaged in some type, to greater or lesser extent, socialism. I had to choose my ism. The wrong ism was getting ready to come out. Our military, socialized. Our policing agencies, socialized. Our public school system, socialized. Our infrastructure, we did that through socialism. We did that through the redistribution of wealth. Everything that we have done together as a nation, our space program, socialism. Everything that we engaged in that required the extraction of taxes and then the redistribution to some other agency or an organization that the government itself administered, that is to a greater or lesser extent socialism. So this idea that people are trying to make us fearful of the word socialism, bad, socialism is communism. That is the most ridiculous, futile, asinine, childish. I mean, I don't understand how it's just so simpleton, such a simple-minded explanation. And I guess that's what they have to do for people on the right, just make it simple as possible, because maybe their heads will explode once they realize, well, hell, America, we've been doing some pretty much socialism all along. And here's the thing. It's not just on infrastructure projects. It's not just on the military and the police, the police force. When we bailed out the major banks in 2008, 2009, that, my friends, was socialism. It was the redistribution of wealth. The only difference is it was from the bottom to the top. And Republicans who say that they're not, and that they're for free markets, the people who run around and say that just cut taxes and let the market take care of everything else. Let the market decide. They are lying to you. There is no other way to say they are lying to you, because they don't want free markets. They want socialized markets. They want the extraction of wealth that the government takes in the form of taxes to go to the top. That is socialism. That is corporate welfare. That is what has happened for forever. Since America has been founded, we have been extracting wealth from the collective people, and we have been sending it in different places. And we see that every time. There's something else I have to tell you. And let me write this one down, because I just like too many things to say this morning. Middle class is not a natural occurring phenomenon. All right, I got to make that note, and I'll come back to that. From the beginning of America, from before the founding to a greater or lesser extent, we have engaged in some type of socialism, but they've made socialism a pejorative. They've made it something to be fearful, something to be afraid of, not so that they can get to true free markets. No, so that they can convince you that all the redistribution of wealth should go up and never go down. That's why they have people arguing against a $15 an hour tax minimum wage. They argue against that and call that class warfare. But now when we're talking about raising the capital gains tax on people who make over $400,000 a year, if they keep that investment for fewer than 2 years, they swear that that's socialism. They swear that policy is socialism. But down here, that policy up there is going to hurt the economy. That policy up there is going to take away from people. That policy, oh goodness, read the comments for yourself, and you see, God, $400,000 a year. I will tell you about one comment, so I can slow down a little, because this type of thing really pisses me off. Propaganda pisses me off. All right. One commenter said, do you know how difficult it is to create wealth if you're making only $400,000 a year? Yeah. He said, do you know how difficult it is to create wealth if all you make is $400,000 a year? Now, anybody who's listening to this, I don't care if this video gets 1 million views, 10 million views, 40 million. This video could get 100 million views, and there probably will only be 3 or 4 people who watch it who make over $400,000 a year. But they complain about that type of progressive taxation on capital gains, not even on income, on capital gains. But now they're saying, oh, you worker who's working for our corporation, you don't need $15 an hour, because that's socialism. Socialism bad. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who have an absolutist mindset. And we're dealing with, we're dealing with like 4 or 5 different types of people. And one of the people, the only people I really want to address, because I guess if you make over $400,000 a year, you should fight to keep your money, fight to whatever, believe what you want to believe. I'm not telling you that whatever. I'm talking to the people who are defending the people who are making $400,000 a year and they don't make but $20 an hour, if that. They make $12. And the guy who called in on Friday and wanted to argue with me about economics makes $13 an hour, and he's fighting for people who makes $400,000 a year. Those type of people, they have been able to keep you voting against your best interest forever, because they wrap their neoliberal wet dreams of not free markets, but socialized markets that redistributes up. They've wrapped it in Jesus. They wrapped it in conservative family values. They wrapped it in, the pro-life movement. They wrapped it in all of these things that get your emotions going. And most of all, most effective, they wrapped it in socialism bad. And that's how they've gotten you to vote against your best interest for all of your life and probably your parents' lives. And so here you go, defending people who make over $400,000 a year while they're fighting against you for making $15 an hour. What sense does that make on any planet in any dimension? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You are defending people who are trying to take from you, all underneath the guise of, all the social issues. But right now, I just want to focus on the economic issues, all underneath the guise of a free market system that has never existed. America is not a pure free market system. The government has always been involved to greater or lesser extents. But I want you to watch this. The government has always been involved by subsidizing large corporations, by giving tax incentives to large corporations, and how do they pay for those tax breaks? They either don't pay for them, like we saw in 1981 with Ronald Reagan's policies, or we see the trimming down of all of the benefits, all the things, all the safety nets, all of the things that would create a middle class. We've seen a consistent decrease in all of the factors that would create a middle class and sustain a healthy middle class. Because as I wrote down on my note here, the middle class is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The middle class does not just pop out of a capitalistic system. Capitalism is structured, and we're going deep. This is a deep dive today in the differences between socialism and capitalism, and with respect to the American history. But we have to have this conversation, because this is a conversation that we as a nation must begin to have. And I think the only person who's going to actually make them have it, the two people, would be Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Hillary Clinton is not going to have this conversation, because Hillary Clinton is presenting a moderate, a bland, down the middle policy, and they're swearing that policy is socialism. And so now that scares everybody. Oh, we might not get elected, so let's go over to the right a little bit more. Let's go over to the right a little bit more. But back to this point, the middle class is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. Capitalism, and what I'm going to do one better. I'm going to get the actual articles. They're actually scholarly articles that show you that capitalism is structured. So it's called capitalism for a reason. Let's start there. You need capital to gain capital. The simple saying that we say all the time, you need money to get money. You need capital to get capital. But it's worse than that. People with capital currently are more likely to maintain that capital throughout their entire lives and to grow more capital. What happens is that accumulates at the top. Capital accumulates at the top. That is the natural phenomenon of capitalism, is that capital accumulates at the top. Middle class economics. There was no middle class before we started to make one. There was no middle class. There was not a meaningful middle class until the New Deal. It wasn't until we engaged in Keynesian economics. It was not until we engaged in a greater degree of socialism than what we used to engage in. Prior to the New Deal, we saw a tax structure similar to what we have now. We saw a tax structure that went from 70% taxing down to 20% right before the New Deal, right before the Great Depression. Then The economy crashed. Great Depression. Everyone's desperate. So I'm sorry. It's just so much in my mind right now that it's just bothering me that people cannot see the simple reality that there is class warfare, but it's being waged on the middle class. It has been waged on the middle class because, as I said, the middle class is not a natural occurring phenomenon. The government must get involved to grow, to establish, to grow, and maintain a middle class. And we have seen nothing but systemic attacks on all the factors that would grow a middle class, which is why you can do it from an anecdotal perspective. Look at your own paycheck. Look at your own income. Look at the increases that you get compared to the increase of cost of living. You have to make over $100,000 a year now just to have a comfortable lifestyle, not a lifestyle to get ahead, not a lifestyle that's going to allow you to make investments, not a lifestyle that's going to leave a lot of wealth for your children. The best that you can do is hope to get them in a good college and help them to get a scholarship. That is the average American lifestyle right now, overwhelmingly. And they have extracted, they have cut policies, they have cut tax breaks, they have cut tax credits, they have cut everywhere they could under the guise of cutting wasteful spending. But have we ever seen them cut taxes, cut tax breaks, cut subsidies, cut corporate welfare? Have we ever seen them do that in a meaningful way? We have always engaged in socialism in one form or another, to one degree or another, to greater or lesser extent. But what we have consistently done in my lifetime and yours is that we have consistently redistributed the wealth to the top in the form of tax breaks, in the form of subsidies, in the form of corporate welfare. We consistently do that. So the next Republican that comes around that says that, well, we just need the free markets to decide, then ask them, if they really want the free markets to decide, are they willing to cut every bit of corporate welfare? Are they going to cut every tax break? Are they going to cut everything that is redistributing wealth, socialism, to the top? Because if they're going to do that, that's the only way that they could ever consider that we have anything remotely close to a free market. They're not interested in free market economics. They're not interested in laissez-faire capitalism. What they're interested in is the coffers. They're interested in getting every penny they can extracted out of the American people through the federal government. They're not going to cut benefits that are going to their defense contractors. They're not going to get there. I want you to understand, none of this is all the money that's being redistributed by the government is going straight to corporations. They're not going to cut that. They are not going to trim that because they firmly believe, we're dealing with people who firmly believe that the money of the American people, the wealth of the American people should go up and not down. All right, I have a call, but when we get back from this break, we'll take this call and we'll discuss a few more things after this break. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We will be back after this.
You're tuned into the Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation, 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust. You've tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right. Welcome back, folks. All right, caller, what's your name and what is your comment or question?
Yeah, hey, this is Eric from Houston. I found you on Twitter in the Hillary Clinton thread, and I love your energy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, hey, look, you know, I agree with you on corporate subsidies, taxpayer subsidies to corporations needs to be abolished. But you know what? I'm working poor. I work 6 days a week, make about $35,000 a year. And it's not the corporate CEOs that I resent. It's not the big corporations or the big businesses that I resent. I resent the welfare mom. I resent these people on EBT using EBT cards in the checkout line at the grocery stores.
Okay.
Here I am with my little cart, and I got to buy the generic bologna and cheap hot dogs and the macaroni and cheese every time when I go to the Kroger store. And the woman in front of me, and you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm not politically correct. 9 out of 10 times, it's a minority. You know, it's a black woman or a Hispanic woman. You know, the woman in front of me, she whips out a Lone Star card, and they gave it a nice name, Lone Star, so people will be fooled that it's not welfare, but it's welfare. And she's got steak and lobster in her carrito, in her cart, her shopping cart. And here I am with the cheap bologna. I'm working like 6 days a week. You know, it's not the corporate CEO that's in the checkout line in front of me that's got the steak and lobster that's stealing from me through taxation, that's stealing my money that I work very hard for. It's not him that's taken from me. It's the welfare moms. It's the woman that pops out 5 different kids with 5 different men that doesn't have a husband in the household. That's the person I resent. You know, woman, you know, go get a job. You know, stop stealing from me. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Appreciate your call. Hang on. I don't want you to go anywhere because I want to have a little dialogue with you about that, because you're exactly the type of person that I'm referring to, that you're angry. And I understand your anger. First of all, let me tell you why I identify with your anger, because I work 6 days a week. And at my hardest, I worked from 5 in the morning to midnight. Right now we're from 5. Well, hell, I guess I still work from 5 in the morning, you know, with exception of the show, right? I don't really call this work because I love doing it. But I still get up at 5 in the morning and I still get off at midnight. Right. So when I leave here, you know, I go to work, you know, so I understand exactly what you feel when in terms of you work so hard and then you got to get a bologna sandwich just to make it to the next paycheck. Right. So I'm with you on that sentiment. But do you realize that as a percentage of what you make, you are paying more out in tax subsidies to the wealthy than you would ever pay out to all of the social welfare people that you're upset with.
Okay, let me stop you right there. I don't view a tax break as a subsidy. I mean, this is where
straight. Well, even straight.
Like myself,
hang on a second.
Totally disagree with liberals.
Hang on, let me give you this.
A tax break.
Let me give you this. Not only a tax break, but also straight out subsidies. I don't want you to get confused and stuck up on the tax break. It's tax breaks as well as subsidies that are straight cash payments to these corporations. So go for it.
Well, I'm against that. I'm with you on that. If my tax dollars are going to corporations, I guess like the export, you're talking about the Export-Import Bank, where they fund overseas investments or big companies like Coca-Cola and stuff like that to promote their products overseas. Yes, I am absolutely with you on that. And if that's the case, if my money is going to fund that and it's a larger percentage, I am outraged just like you are about that.
So,
but you know what?
Okay, go ahead.
That's not what's in my face every day.
Right.
That's not what I see every day.
Right.
I see the woman at the Kroger store whipping out her Lone Star car, and I'm furious about it. I want to go up to her and slap her and say, "Woman, go get a job. Stop stealing my money."
Do you realize that most of those people do have jobs? They paid it. Hang on, hold on. I gave you a chance to talk, and I want you to hear me. They have painted a picture in your mind successfully over the last 30 years to make you believe that everybody that's on welfare is jobless and lazy. Do you realize that there are plenty of jobs both at Walmart?
I think they are.
But that's a misconception. That's a misconception.
People, they do not want to work. You know why?
Hang on. I'll let you talk. So now let me talk, and then I'll give it back to you. That's a misconception. Yes, there are people who do not have work, right? That do not work. And there's two things that I got to remind me to tell you about Owsley, Kentucky. But first of all, there are a amount of people who are not working, but there are far more people who are the working poor. You called yourself the working poor, but the working poor are people who are working 40 hours a week and cannot make enough money to buy food. And so what these corporations have done, and it is part of their policy, both places like Walmart and McDonald's, they would teach you how to go and get on welfare because your salary is not enough, even though you're working 40 hours a week. Now, that is not something I'm making up or pulling out of the air. We are subsidizing these corporations, not only with straight cash payments, not only with tax breaks, but we're subsidizing them by having to pay welfare and pay safety nets because they're not paying their people enough money. So now they've made you upset, and they painted this picture in your mind that everybody who's on welfare.
Why?
Hold on. You're on my show, so let me finish my thought, and I would be glad to let you finish. All right. Everybody, they have a picture in your mind that everyone on welfare is not working, but it is demonstrated that the working poor are on welfare. They are receiving SNAP benefits. They are receiving food stamps because the jobs that they have do not pay enough money for them to pay for all of their expenses of living as well as get food. Now go for it.
Okay. My point is, why is it that they're having kids with all different husbands and the man is not in the household? I mean, the man should be in the household working his butt off to pay for those kids. Instead, I'm paying for them.
You're paying for a fraction. I will chase that red herring a little bit because that is a common not even a misunderstanding. That's a common bit of propaganda that they feed you on a regular basis. First of all, if I don't know if my producer is listening, I want you to pull up that stat for me of what we pay out based on welfare and subsidies to corporations, and send that to me so I can bring it up on the screen. But what you pay to these people is minuscule compared to what you're angry at them because you see them. You're angry at them because you've been told that's who you should be angry at. You're angry at them because you have been propagandized for years. But the truth of the matter is that energy and that anger that you have, shouldn't that, and just answer me this, shouldn't that go to the people who are taking the lion's share of your taxes?
Okay, I will, but I want to ask you this question.
Wait, answer that. Answer that for me real quick, and I'll let you have the floor.
72% of black households do not have a man in the household. paying for the kids. Is that statistic true or not?
That is statistically misleading.
Thank you.
Misleading.
Thank you.
Hold on. We're chasing red herrings, so let's chase them. Do you know? Hang on, because you're doing what you're not going to do is just yell over me. All right? Are we going to have a conversation or not? Are we going to have a conversation or not? Are we going to have a conversation? You asked me a question. Can I answer it without you yelling over me?
Go ahead.
All right. 72% of people don't have of black children don't have fathers in the household, but that does not mean that 72% are not being taken care of by their father. It has been statistically demonstrated by the most recent research by the Census Bureau that black fathers are far more active and participatory in their children's lives. So now, even though they don't live with their parents, that does not mean that their parents are not taking care of them. That statistic that you gave just shows how many people don't live with their fathers, but that does not mean that they're not active. It has been demonstrated. You can pick up a book called All In by Josh Leves. It is demonstrated in chapter 8 that black fathers are outperforming white fathers, Hispanic fathers, and every other type of father in terms of being participatory in their children's lives and taking care of their children. Now, that's not something I don't pull stats out of my ass. That's documented. So go grab that book, chapter 8. Matter of fact, you can pull up the New York Times article by Charles Blow and find and read that data for yourself. So let's throw that out the window, because it doesn't mean just because they're not living with their family that they're not being taken care of by their dad. All right.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
But you can't.
We're on two different planets. If they're not in the household, it doesn't mean jack as far as I'm concerned. They need to be married in the household with the kids 24 hours a day.
Okay, so since we're throwing around stats, do you realize that 50% of Christians, 50% of all these conservative people are now divorced? They are not taking care of I could say the same thing, that just because they're not living with them, that they're not taking care of their family. That doesn't make it true. So there is a marriage problem, if you want to say that, in the United States, but that's not endemic to a particular group or demographic. That is America. That is America. Now, do you know this stat? Do you know this stat? Hang on, I got to give you this stat. Do you know that the largest county, the largest percentage of welfare recipients is in Owsley, Kentucky, which is 95% white and 99% Republican? Did you know that that they are the ones? If you want to be mad at somebody, why aren't you mad at Owsley, Kentucky, which is 95% white? But in your mind, you're thinking of that black person or that Hispanic person that you saw in front of you at Kroger, when in reality, all of your money is being sucked into this red state.
Okay, so a white person mimicking black culture is supposed to make it good?
Mimicking? So now you're saying I'm gonna laugh at that. You know why? You know why I'm gonna laugh at that?
To get blacks, get them off of the Republican Party to move them in the Democratic Party, and then decades later, white people start mimicking, seeing the blacks getting on welfare, not having to work, and you think that's good?
My friend, you are. I think you're right. I think we're operating at two totally different frequencies, because what I just gave you, I gave you a statistic based on the poverty level in Kentucky, that they are overwhelmingly voting with the Republican Party, and they are overwhelmingly so impoverished that they consume the greatest amount of your tax dollars with regard to the SNAP program. It's being absorbed into this one white county in the United States of America. And you decide to say that is them acting like they're black. You know, you started this conversation like you were intelligent, but now I'm starting to question the validity of that premise that you started off with.
They're mimicking black culture.
How are they mimicking black culture? By taking welfare? So welfare, are you not? Because now this is, hang on, hold on. You called the Benjamin Dixon Show. What you're not going to do is run off and spout lies and ridiculousness. You answer me the question, and I'll let you have the last word. Are you saying that poverty and welfare is black culture, and that is what Owsley, Kentucky is mimicking? And I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I guess I can talk now. Look,
yeah, you have my permission. Go for it.
Who in the right mind, if they're working poor, go to the grocery store and sees black people and Hispanic people with these little cards, I don't know what it's called in Kentucky, and they get free food? Who in the right mind is going to say, you know, why am I dumb? Why am I going to slobbing to work every day, 6 days a week? Why can't I just get one of these cards too and get my steak and lobster? You know, it wasn't like that in the 1960s. Lyndon Johnson specifically wanted to get blacks off the Republican Party, voting Democrat. Blacks used to vote Republican. So he instituted welfare, and then decades later, of course, white people are going to start mimicking mimicking black culture. And here's my final thing I'm going to say. They should be shamed. I would go to that county as a white person, and I would go to that county in Kentucky, and I know Kentucky. I'd go there and say, what in the world is wrong with you? And I do it in my personal life. If I see a white person taking out a Lone Star card here in Texas, I will yell and scream at them. Don't shame yourself. Have some faith in yourself. Work hard. Do not take welfare. That is stealing from other people.
Let me ask you one simple question, and then we'll move on, because I don't think we're going to agree, but that's fine. That's life. Let's say your hours got cut back. Instead of working 60 hours a week, now your corporation, because they're going to have, for whatever reason, they're going to cut you down to $35 hours a week, just enough to be full time. What would you have to do to take care of your family?
I'd go down to the local pawn shop, plop down $50 and get a rusty old lawnmower. I'd go to the Office Depot with $5 in my hand. I'd get some flyers printed up, and I'd walk my neighborhood, and I'd have more work than I could handle within 2 hours. Let me tell you something. There's a black guy in my neighborhood. He's maybe in his 40s, little guy. He is the most wonderful person I've ever met in my life. This guy, he's got his own lawnmower service. He busts his butt for 6 days a week, sweating in the 95-degree heat. He doesn't bother anybody. He supports himself. He never asks for anything. His name's Johnny. I love this guy. Why can't more black people be hardworking and entrepreneurial like this guy?
I'm not going to chase that red herring. I'm going to follow up with the next logical step in that. If Johnny's already doing it and Johnny is capitalizing and getting all the business, what business is going to be left for you? You're assuming that you can go out and just get up all this business, but everybody is out there doing it. If everyone is out there doing it and you're not by yourself, your company laid off and cut hours for 500 people, and can everybody go out there and cut grass? There are going to be some people. There are going to be some people. If everybody is doing it, I forgot your name at the top of it, but Johnny, you mentioned Johnny. If everybody is doing it, how are you going to be able to compete with everyone else that is out there? I tell you what, this is what you do. You put that theory into action. And actually, better than that, I want you to go and I want you to look at the number of people who are working poor, legitimately working poor, who are working 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week, but are only making $10 an hour. And so they have been taught by their corporations to go and get welfare. So you're mad. You're mad at the wrong people. You're mad at the wrong people because you see a Hispanic or a black person in front of you. And you say, oh, that's because they're lazy. You don't even know if they have a job. You don't even know if they're working. They could be working just as hard as you. They could be just working twice as hard as you, but not making as much as you make per hour. And so they have conditioned you so much so that now all you see is the 5 cents on the dollar that you give to food stamps, but you pay no attention. None of that visceral anger that you have, none of it is directed to like 30 cents on the dollar. Now I'm throwing out these numbers because I don't have the stats in front of you, but it is that dramatic of a difference. You're angry with the person who's taking 5 cents out of your dollar versus the people who are taking 30 cents out, and you think they're eating steaks and lobsters? They're riding in their yachts. They're living in their skyscrapers. They're eating the caviar. So you're mad because a working poor person is getting a lobster, right? Which whatever. I don't even like lobster like that. So I'm not defending their right to eat lobster. What I'm saying is your anger is misplaced. Your anger is so misplaced, and you are the exact product. You are the exact product of what I was talking about, of 30 years of propaganda. And you feel like all you have to do is go and get a lawnmower and go and cut grass. But you already said Johnny is capitalizing on it. So what are you going to do? What you're most likely going to do when the rubber meets the road and you cannot feed your family anymore, you will be in the working poor legitimately, and you will go out and get food stamps to feed your kids. And then I'm going to walk up in line behind you and say, why the hell won't you get a job, you lazy ass bastard? That's what I would say. Now, all of that to say this. This guy just demonstrated perfectly the mindset that has been conditioned over the last 30 years to be angry at people who aren't taking hardly anything from them, pennies compared to what is the wealth that is being redistributed to the top. No, you're not upset at the CEO. You know why you're not upset at the CEO, Johnny? You're not upset at the CEO because you have this idea in the back of your mind, if you just work harder, that you can become the CEO, not realizing that you have been born into a caste system, whether they will admit it or not. You in America, once you are born in poverty, you are cast in poverty, unless you are part of the Einsteinian intellectual elite that you can pull yourself out of poverty just by your own free will. But that is not the average American. That is not how the story goes. And so you can keep living in that pipe dream. That's all I can say is you're living in a pipe dream and your anger is misplaced. And you won't even say anything with regard to the companies that are teaching their employees to go out and get on welfare because they don't want to pay them enough money to live. I can't demonstrate it any better. I could not have made a better example, ladies and gentlemen, than this guy that just called in, yelling, furious, ready to jump through the phone, mad at people who might get 3 cents of his dollar, but completely absolving any responsibility of the corporations that are getting 30 and 40% of his money, of his tax dollar. This is what we are fighting against. We're fighting against this mentality that anything that goes down is evil, bad, and socialism. And anything that goes up is something that should be lauded or protected, or in his case, well, I don't, it's bad, but I'm not going to talk about that. It's bad. I'm not going to put my anger there. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, socialism and welfare has always been a part of our economy, always. And the lion's share of that money has gone up. And if we don't have a conversation, he doesn't even realize, and I want to get off this so bad because I got to go. I got a paper to write for my PhD program. He doesn't even realize the reason he has to work 6 days a week just to make it by is because we have been cutting all of the institutional programs that would have made it easier for a person to just work and live off of 40 hours a week. We have been cutting all of the programs. We have been cutting all of the tax incentives. We have been cutting all of these things to pay for the tax breaks and the subsidies and the money and the corporate welfare that goes to the top, the redistribution of wealth that goes to the top. He doesn't even realize that he is a victim of this because he's so angry at the minority that's in front of him. He's so angry at the black people that he thinks don't take care of their kids, right? Because that's what the stats tell him, that black people just don't take care of their kids. So that's the problem. He's so angry at everybody else except for the people who are actually taking his money, his tax dollars. And that, my friends, is the magic of the Republican libertarian lie propaganda machine. And that's what we're fighting against. And if we don't beat that, you're going to have an entire group of people so inundated with anger and poverty, killing and fighting and going to war with other poor people, simply because in his case, the bottom line for him, whether you heard it or not, the bottom line for him was his belief that it's a minority problem. They've convinced people like him to vote against his best interest. In his case, because of his belief of the inferiority of minorities. For other people, it's the belief that the Republican Party is somehow the party of Jesus and moral values. And for other people, it's because they vote with Republicans because of the pro-life movement. And then all these factors that distract people from the reality that in spite of everything else that they've sold to you, the only thing they want, it's not free markets. It's not a fair playing field. What they want is socialism to redistribute wealth to the top. All right, folks. I'll catch you next time.
And until that moment comes when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.